right, thanks guys for joining us for another episode of Black Coffee and Crime. This is episode 18. So what this means for you is you're getting 2 episodes in 1 week, because we did have an episode on Thursday. And if you watch episode 17, then you heard that we were moving the show to Tuesdays. If you haven't watched episode 17 in its entirety, go back and watch it. It's still a good episode. But we are moving the show to Tuesdays. You'll still sit on YouTube, and you'll get all the updates on Instagram and on Facebook. You can always go there for what's going on Al Gore's internet, what we're going to be talking about in upcoming weeks, and just interesting things we find going on in the world. So as always, we're going to start with the church announcements. Haven't said this in a while, but Jackie and I are just people who are in love with crime, true crime, current events, other things like that. We are not law enforcement professionals. Yep. So if we get some laws wrong, it's, charge it to the game. If we get some information incorrect or we don't include information, please feel free to include that information. Put it in the comments. We will go back and research, and we'll come back and tell you what we found, and we will definitely correct ourselves. And as always, be respectful to Jackie and I, to other viewers and listeners. Always obey your ushers, and I think that concludes the church announcements. You got anything else? Anybody on the sick and shut-in list? All right, so what would you? No. Nobody on the sick and shut-in list? All right. We did talk about the prison ministries. We're going to think about resuming those ministries in 2022, because 2021, we're not sure. We're going to be able to get back in there and do those prison ministries. So, because right now, that's not what we're doing. All right, those are the church announcements as follows. Please govern yourselves accordingly. All right, so other than like the election, that's what's like flooding the media right now is election. Most states are ending we're going through the periods of early voting. So if that's still available in your state, go ahead and do that. Get it over with. Make sure your ballots are in and counted. Make sure if you're mailing in your ballot, make sure you get the tracking so you can know when your ballot is received and it's being counted. If you're at the polls, stay in line. Don't allow anybody to intimidate you. There should be information that you can call for voter registration and places like that, so that if there is some funky stuff going on at the polls, and you can report that, especially on November 3rd. That's going to be a big deal. People are going to be out there. They're going to be trying to intimidate you to get you to, leave. But I believe in all states, if you are in line by 7 o'clock, then they have to let you vote. So 7 p.m. is the cutoff time, but as long as you're in line by 7 p.m., you can vote. So however you vote, whoever you vote for, just get out there and do that. So that's in the headlines. But Jackie, you were talking about the resurgence of female mutilation. What is that about?
Yes. So it's resurfaced for FGM, which is female genital mutilation, where they could cut off multiple parts of the female private areas. It could be the clitoris, however you say it, right? I may be saying it wrong. It could be the labia, it could be the inner and outer, and then they sew it together and leave a small hole for just for your menstrual monthly, and to use the bathroom to pee. And it has resurfaced in this.
Well, what about with the
country in the United States? Because it's a cultural thing. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So when you were telling me about this, I was like, in this country, female mutilation, because I know that in a lot of tribal societies, you have female mutilation, and a lot of that has been banned, and it's really it's really frowned upon. However, of course, there are some, groups that will still do that, but in the United States, it had died down. who's doing this? Is it like African societies? Is it Europeans? Like, who is doing this female mutilation here in this country again?
It is West African, Asian. They are mainly the ones who are still practicing in this country because they have their own tribes, they have their own family, their own community who have came over to the United States. So it's their own people who are doing these in private locations using a knife or a razor blade that they've had. So it could be someone that may be like a doctor for the tribe or their family and their friends' families and beyond. And we're talking as young as 4 months old. But it is happening in this country, and it has been back up.
That's barbaric because the practice is, okay, so there are a lot of, in patriarchal societies, that, you know, there is the belief that women should not receive any sort of sexual pleasure, that a woman's genitals are just for receiving her partner and for having a baby. So any pleasure that she gets from that, then she's, you know, a bad woman. And so I listen, I have seen pictures of what female circumcision looks like. It is grotesque. Like, I don't even necessarily agree with male circumcision because it's unnecessary, really. But I'm not a guy and I don't have a son, so I don't have that fight to fight. I don't have the decision to make. But the female circumcision, it's the inner and outer labia and the clitoris. There's a lot of blood vessels in those areas. So just imagine the pain and the bleeding. And if they're not doing this in a clinical setting, then you're talking about infection, just any manner of things that could go wrong. And it's just, when especially if you're doing it to someone so young, she hasn't matured, she hasn't grown, and it's like when they used to, in China, they used to do the foot wrapping to make the feet small, to keep the feet small, and then they grow into this really grotesque like lump. Just, you know, just imagine that between your legs and having trouble, even, you know, even they're supposed to leave space for urination. Just imagine not being able to go to the bathroom and having that be painful for your entire life. And then when you do have a baby, I mean, you stretch, but if it's already sewn together, how much are you stretching? You know, how much more painful is that for you? And why is that pain necessary? Like, you know, birth is already just horrible. And that's if you have medication. It's horrible. And then you want to, I just can't imagine.
I couldn't either. I was just like, and you know, they don't get no pain meds. I mean, there's no medication, no pain. They literally have to take this. I mean, they're dying from it. It's too much blood. I read that sometimes they've caught HIV because they're using, you know, and this may be actually in Africa where this happened at. I'm not 100% sure, but they catch HIV because they're just using the same blade on everyone and never washing it, never sterilizing. Nothing gets sterilized. They just use either a blade, an actual razor blade, the small one, or an actual razor blade that has a handle. It's one or the other.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like years ago, I was watching this documentary about like male maturity in Africa. And it was this specific tribe, and I can't tell you who it was or what tribe it was, but basically they have a male circumcision ceremony like every 12 years, right?
Oh, wow.
Every 12 years. So say if you were born in that 13th year, you're not going to get a circumcision. You're not going to get circumcised till you're 12 or however that goes. And so what they do is they go, like you saying, they use the same knife. They would go like person after person after person. And heaven forbid that you were the 17th person, you're going to get cut with a dull knife. So they're sawing at the extra skin on your penis with it. It's like using a butter knife to give you a circumcision. So it's like you had to be the first person. You know what I'm saying? Because with the first person, they're just gonna slice your knife and get on. But
oh my God.
whew, I mean, I don't even have a peen, and I just imagine.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's horrible.
they just turn off.
Yeah, it's bad. It's unnecessary. It's barbaric. It is, it just more crimes against women. Um, it yeah. There's like no words for why this should happen. It should not happen. And it's crazy that it's happening here, but hell, it seems like everything is happening here again. So, so we just don't know. Whew, okay. Well, no, say no to female circumcision. That is not cool. It's not good.
There's nothing good about it.
We need all our parts, y'all. All of our parts. Don't be cutting our stuff off. We need all of this. So no more on Al Gore's internet, but let me tell you the crazy shit that me and my family have been doing, which is Al Gore's internet worthy, okay? My tribe, clan, family, we are super competitive. Like ridiculously so. And we regularly do game nights. Well, recently I came up with we should do the one chip challenge. And if you all are not familiar with the one chip challenge, let me see if I can find. All right. This is the one chip challenge. Can you see that? This right here. This is a chip from Pocky.
No,
it is the Carolina Reaper.
No, thanks.
And the Sichuan Heat. And it's one chip that comes in this box. One single chip. It's like an oversized Dorito. And Carolina Reaper is the hottest pepper on the Scoville chart. Okay, so it's right up there, 1 million plus Scoville units. And we ate this chip. We did. We started off last week with the hot noodle challenge. So we did the hot noodles. And the noodles were so good. Like, they're very edible. But
you know what? My sister said that. She was like, those hot noodles are actually very good.
The problem with the noodles is this. They burn your lips. Your whole mouth is on fire, inside and out. So that's the problem with the noodles. But you still want to eat them. So we ate the noodles, and then we drank the juice. And we recorded ourselves for posterity doing that. So, right. So when we did that, people were like, you guys are nuts. But we're like, we're not done yet. So earlier this week, we got a whole box of these, right? Because there's like a ton of us doing this. So my family here in Texas and my family in California, we bought a bunch of these. And so last night, we attempted mass suicide, Jim Jones style. Yeah, because I think that was our goal. Our goal was mass suicide, because otherwise, what were we doing? All the videos that you see on YouTube, they are not for play. That shit is for real. Oh my God. That chip tastes like hot dirt. Okay. Just a big ball of hot dirt. There's no flavor to it. It's just dirt. So I took the chip out of the little bag, comes in a little black cellophane bag thing, and I broke it in half, and I was holding it with my fingernails, and then I put it all the way to the back of my mouth, and I started to chew. And normally when you start to chew things, you can swallow a little bit. No, this thing is like a sea sponge. It sucks all the moisture out your mouth. So you just sit there and chew for minute after minute after minute. And while you're doing that, any thought that you still have, because you don't have many at this point, because the heat has stolen all available brain cells. Your thoughts are, why am I doing this? Who am I? Where am I? And why can't I swallow? Like, you're seriously sitting there like, I can't swallow. Like, why can't I swallow? And so you just keep chewing in the hopes that something will happen. And then you get to the consistency in your mouth that you can swallow. And then when you do swallow, you realize that you shouldn't have swallowed. You probably should have spit it out a long time ago. My brother was probably the smartest one who did the challenge. He took one bite, chewed it twice, and was like, nope, 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 and he spit it out. Yep. Jackie.
All I know is y'all face was red, everybody's eyes was watered, y'all couldn't talk. Y'all was like,
it wasn't even that my eyes were watered. I was full on crying. Like, full on Old Yeller Bambi Dumbo crying. Like, it was
how long did it take for the heat to go away?
My ears are still tingling. Okay, I just want to say that. And it's been almost 24 hours. My ears are still tingling. My throat feels like I have suffered from smoke inhalation. Yeah. It was the cruelest thing I've ever done to myself. Ever.
Yeah.
And listen, I had a baby about 20 plus years ago, natural. No medication, no nothing. Just spit the baby out natural. And I would rather do that again than eat that chip.
Oh my God.
I would rather do that than eat that chip.
That's
I don't know if you saw in the video that we were all eating out of a communal ice cream bowl. Did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was ice cream, and at some point we just, the hell with decorum, the hell with germs, we were eating out of a single half gallon of ice cream, trying to cool this thing off. My sister, my brother's wife, actually dipped her whole hand in the ice cream and ate it. Because listen.
Oh, you're gonna be laughing. Because I know the video. If you see the video, then you'll know why.
And then
cried because when I was watching,
we went live on Instagram with my cousin who was also doing the challenge in California.
Yes.
And if you could have seen her expression when the heat hit her, she was eating popsicles. She took the ice pack, the reusable ice pack out of her lunch bag and put it against her mouth. Because her lips started to swell because she was eating the chip, she was eating it from the package, so the dust hit her mouth. Another cousin went live and he did it. He drank like a whole gallon of milk. People, this is serious. I caution you, like, you could do this, you could survive this, but you don't want to survive this. And let me tell you, if you can get through the actual first part of the challenge where you're eating the chip, the hell really doesn't start until after about an hour and a half after.
Yep.
Baby, when that stuff hits your stomach.
Whole stomach on fire.
Girl, if it felt like I had drank a fifth of tequila or just hard liquor straight, no chaser, no nothing, just chugged it down. That's the way my stomach felt. Okay. I could
like
get
that fireball.
Yes, that's the way it felt like when it was coming out. It felt like a fireball. It did. I ain't gonna lie. I'm just trying to tell you what to expect when you eat this chip. So that was the Pocky 2020 challenge, because last year the 2019 chip was a different pepper. So this was the Carolina Reaper and the Szechuan Heat. Now on the back of this, it says, do not eat if you are sensitive to spicy foods. After touching the chip, wash your hands with soap. Do not touch your eyes or any sensitive areas, because it's a black dust and it goes everywhere. It was all on the floor. Y'all, this is horrible.
Oh wow.
It's horrible. Don't ever do that. That was the worst experience I've ever had in my whole life. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I've done some stupid shit. And I've been in, I got ran over by a motorcycle. by my brother. My brother ran me over on a motorcycle. So it's a lot of bad stuff that's happened to me in my years, and this was the absolute worst. And the fact that I did this to myself made it even worse than what it could have been. So
Oh man.
yeah, don't do it. But so I am off the event planning committee for our family because I'm the one who challenged it for the rest of the year. So for 2020, I have been relieved of my duties as an event planner.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, they took away my keys. Yeah, they took my keys away, so I can't do this no more. But we're gonna see what we're gonna do in 2021. Our next family challenges are gonna be a little bit milder, but just as competitive because that's what we do, and that's why we get into the kind of crap we get into because we can't just turn down the challenge. So we did that as a whole family. We survived. Some of us are still hanging on, barely.
And it was Lola that lasted the longest, correct?
Lola and a friend of ours. There's like a scale, it's like featherweight, welterweight, or whatever. So she wanted the heavyweight, which is going a whole hour after eating the chip without drinking anything. Lola is very fair skinned, so she was pale at one point and fire engine red at another. Her whole body, because when you eat it, you feel like you have a fever. It's like all the air is sucked out of the room.
Her whole face was the color of her hair.
Right. And
her whole body.
She heated up so much that I was like, please don't let this child pass out. Because she was so hot. And but she made it on through. She's one of the ones that's barely hanging on today, bless her heart. But, out of the 9 people who did it, 5 of us ate the entire chip. And 2 of the 5 lasted an entire hour.
Oh, wow.
So I think it was a pretty successful challenge. But we won't be doing that again.
Yeah, you can't plan.
We're done with that. Yeah. I'm thinking something for 2021, but for the rest of this year, now we through.
I would need you to take a break if you were the family coordinator, and no more.
Yeah. They took my keys last night. Yeah, they took my keys. All right. So this week, I forgot. It's almost Halloween, right?
Yes, it is.
Almost Halloween. So I thought that we would just talk about, just very briefly, one of the most famous Halloween cases to ever happen. Have you ever wondered why you check your Halloween candy as kids? Like when you went trick or treating,
I know.
You wonder why your mom is like, check that candy. Don't
When I was little, I did not know why my mom had to do that, obviously, because I'm like, well, what's the problem? Everybody is supposed to be trustworthy. Ain't that a lie?
Right. So the reason why we have to check our candy is back in I want to say the early 80s or late 70s, very late 70s, early 80s. In a small neighborhood near Houston, Halloween nights, these kids go trick-or-treating and they come home and they start to eat their candy. It's about 5 kids. And 2 of the kids start eating pixie sticks.
Yep.
A little boy and a little girl start eating pixie sticks. His name was Timothy O'Brien. The little boy's name was Timothy O'Brien. He was 8 at the time. Well, pretty soon after eating the pixie sticks, he starts foaming at the mouth. And that's because that pixie stick had cyanide in it. Cyanide is the poison that basically you have a cyanide pill and you chomp on it and you die. Like, oh my God, one of the Nazi generals, Himmler, I believe, he did that. Like he bit into the cyanide capsule and he, died. That was what they did so that they wouldn't have to confess or go under trial or anything. So there's no cure for that because it goes to your bloodstream and you're done, right? So the little boy dies. Well, come to find out, his dad did it. His dad laced the pixie sticks with cyanide so he could collect the insurance money on his 8-year-old.
Yep.
So Ronald,
Yes.
later on, they did find this out. The little girl who also ate the pixie sticks, she didn't eat a lot of it. She did not die. She just barely got any of it. She didn't die. But the little boy who was apparently the target did die. And his father, Ronald O'Brien, was put to death in 1984 for basically killing his child. And I think that the payout was like $18,000, which,
back
if
then,
that money could have been a lot, but still wouldn't have been that much. Even with inflation, it still wasn't enough to kill your child. So, yeah, so that is the reason why you have to check your candy.
important.
Is because someone tried to poison their child with cyanide. And over the years, there's been the things where, they found razor blades and things put in candy and people just being malicious and things like that. But since it's almost Halloween, I thought I would, let y'all know why you have to check your candy. The best thing to do is just go buy your own damn candy. Have a little
Never look at a pixie stick to spray for that.
Girl, I want a pixie stick now. It ain't gonna stop me from having no pixie stick. Okay, here we go with the nose again. Y'all, I don't know what it is about me. The camera is my nose.
I was gonna ask you, Kleenex.
I don't know.
Ask you that.
My eyes or my nose. I don't know what it is. But I'm not gonna let this stop me, y'all. I'm not gonna let it stop me. All right. So this week's story is about Ivan Hill. He's another serial killer from California. Apparently in the 70s and 80s, the Pacific Coast was like serial killer heaven, okay? From Oregon, Washington, down to California. There were serial killers everywhere. You got to remember, this is the time where Gary Ridgway, Ted Bundy, there was another guy called the Freeway Killer. He was hooking up with gay men and then killing them and throwing them on the side of the freeway. But this guy is called the 60 Freeway Killer. Mm-hmm. His name was Ivan Hill, and he was active during the 80s. And he killed about 9 African-American women. And he would either leave them on the side of the road, in industrial parks, centers, or business parks, or regular city parks. And his method was he would strangle them. Sometimes they would find the victims with duct tape on their mouth or tied up around the wrist and ankles. But here's the thing. The interesting thing about this guy, not that being a serial killer is not interesting, but his life, his childhood prior to that, this is a classic guy that when you read his story, if you didn't know that he was a serial killer, you would assume that he was. Like, what did he do the rest of his life? Did he, so here's Ivan's story. So basically, he was born in 1961 in Los Angeles, California. His parents were married, and here's the thing. His parents had a very contentious relationship. Like, they fought like Ike and Tina style. But it was even worse than Ike and Tina.
Yeah, I can say it was way worse.
It was
Ike and Tina. He was beating
the dog mess out of his wife and his kids.
Yeah, I would say
how many brothers and sisters did he have? He had a ton of brothers and sisters. It was a bunch of them. So basically, to borrow a line from The Color Purple, in between the beatings, the children keep coming. So they just fought and had babies. Ivan was the oldest of all the children. Well, in 1968, he was about 7 years old, and the mom and dad were fighting. And his father takes a rifle and shoots his mother in the face in front of their kids. Now,
Yes.
last week, we talked about a guy with the last name of Nero out of Garland, Texas, who killed his wife, shot her 10 times in front of their kids. So this guy, Mr. Hill, takes a rifle, not a handgun, a whole rifle.
A whole rifle.
Shoots his wife in the face. She does survive. But get this, this is the crazy part. She doesn't press charges.
Nope.
She doesn't press charges.
She should.
So eventually he comes back home and they get back together. At that point, though, Ivan had already been living with his grandmother. But she was a little crazy too, because she liked to take the kids to the mortuary and look at dead bodies.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like she was good for them, but at the same time, her elevator didn't go.
Oh,
Just kind of stopped.
It's like on paper she was good,
Right.
but and let's just be honest. In 1968, how many foster homes were accepting of Black children? And if they didn't go to foster homes, they would have went to reform school or whatever. So, you know, the grandmother was the best possible option, you know, at that point. So, you know, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. So the mom and the dad get back together, and over the years, back and forth until they finally split up. Now, I know there's such things as, you know, battered women syndrome and not being able to leave, but a man shot you in the face.
The face.
And I don't know why the DA wouldn't pick that up. Like, this is not a fight.
You know, the recovery time?
Yes. Like, he actually took a gun and shot this woman in the face, and the DA doesn't pick that up. She has the option to press charges, yes or no.
Right.
Like, I'm glad that laws have progressed to where, you know, a crime like that, the DA doesn't care if you press charges or not. They're going to pick it up. The state will pick it up, because that's just damn ridiculous. That makes no sense whatsoever. So he becomes, you know, he's a nice guy. According to, you know, kids in his high school, he's a really nice guy. But, of course, he's troubled. You know, he's come from an abusive home.
And he was described as a great guy.
Yeah, yeah. But he got into some trouble. So when he was 17, in 1979, he and another kid robbed a liquor store, and they killed the clerk. Ivan ended up doing a reduced sentence because he basically gave evidence against the other suspects. So he, you know, the guy whose name is Vernon Myers, he actually got life in prison. Ivan pretty much gets a short sentence, and he walks. He gets out of prison, and he does like little, you know, pickup jobs, you know, here and there. He goes to a community college, but he's really a vagabond. So he's just really bouncing. He has no real roots at this point, and he continues to commit petty crimes. Well, his crimes start to escalate because in 1993, he starts on about a 10-week killing spree. So for 10 weeks at the end of 1993, he kills about 6 women at this point. The women's names, the woman's got me speaking all kind of crazy right here. The woman's, now I can't find the page because I'm messing around. Fix it, Jesus. All right. The women's names are Betty Sue Harris, Roxanne Bates, Helen Hill, Donna Goldsmith, Cheryl Sayers, and Deborah Brown. Now, all of these women are African-American women in their 30s. And basically what he does is he finds them, he strangles them, and then he throws them somewhere near the 60 freeway. Now, the 60 freeway used to have a bunch of different names, but we've always called it the 60 freeway. I am from Southern California, traveled the 60 freeway all the time. It was basically in our backyard. But he's traveling between Pomona, Upland, Ontario, Chino. And that is part of San Bernardino and Los Angeles County. But here's the thing, with all of these murders, which start on November 1st, with Betty Harris, she was the first one found November 1st of 1993. They're not connecting these murders. They're finding the women, but they're not making a connection. They're not thinking that these things are connected until they find Cheryl Sayers. Now, once they find, she's the fifth one. Once they find Cheryl Sayers and let's see here, and Roxanne Bates, they start to make a connection that they have a serial killer. And with serial killers, the police really don't give a name like, you know, the 60 Freeway Killer or the Southside Slayer, which he's also known by as the Southside Slayer. They don't give them names. The media gives them names. So once they connected and said that we have a serial killer, the media gives him the name as the Southside Slayer or the 60 Freeway Killer. They know they have a killer. They just don't know who he is.
No, nothing.
They know nothing about this guy. They can connect it. And remember, this is 1993. This is before the days of widespread DNA and what's the technique that they call when they take a small piece of DNA and they repeat it several times? I forgot. But if you watch Cold Case Files or something like that, they'll tell you that, because they always have some mass spectrometer or something or other on the show. Have you ever wondered why that thing is always a mass spectrometer something? And you're like, where are all these big ass names coming from? But anyway, this is before the days that they could actually use those things, or those things were widely used. So they didn't know how to connect one victim to the other. They just knew that this was the same person, but who is he? So Ivan Hill goes about his life being what he is a petty criminal. So they think at this point that he's still a petty criminal. And, you know, he commits some robberies. He gets arrested. He gets diagnosed with depressive disorder after he loses his job and he breaks up with his girlfriend. So at some point he goes to prison. And while he's in prison, there's a new law
while he's in prison.
Yes, while he's in prison, there's a new law that is passed that all felons have to get their DNA taken. There needs to be a DNA sample. And once they do that, they connect Ivan Hill to those 6 murders.
Yes, they did.
And this was in 2004. So mind you, he committed the murders in the end of 1993. So in a 10-week period, he committed those 6 murders. Now he's also attributed to 3 more murders, which he admitted to after his initial conviction for the 6. So in 2004, they take his DNA, they connect him, and he is put on trial and given the death penalty. They try to use his depressive disorder and also his childhood to kind of give a reason of why he was the way he was and why he did what he did. But again, the judges are like, nah, like there's no reason for him to have done that. So at this point, Ivan is still sitting on death row. He is 59 years old. He's in San Quentin prison at this point. The interesting thing though, is that last week we talked about the Carr brothers and how, what was their life like? You know, what would cause them to commit a mass murder of those 5 people? And we couldn't find anything. Like, were they on drugs? What were they doing?
Right.
But with this guy, it's not justification that he should commit murder, but still you have an understanding of why he targeted, for what I think, why he targeted African-American women in their 30s, because his mom was in her 30s when she was shot in the face. So maybe he has, and I don't know if this is true because I didn't read it, but I'm just speculating. But maybe he has some sort of hatred or feelings, you know, ill feelings towards Black women of a certain age, because of his mom and what she went through when she was fighting with his father. Like Betty Sue Harris was 37.
It's an
Roxanne
uncommon.
Bates was 31. Helen Hill, no relation to him, was 36. Donna Goldsmith was 35. Cheryl Sayers was 34. And then also Deborah Brown was 33. Uh, so I'm just thinking that maybe when he was living with his mother, because then he, he did go live with his grandmother, but while he was living with his mother, maybe he had built up this resentment towards Black women of a certain age, and that's why he attacked them. But why did he start attacking them then, though? Like, that's interesting to me. Why would he start attacking them then? What triggered him in 1993 to start picking up and murdering women?
That's a good question. And
why
also,
did he stop?
you're right though. It also could definitely be about his mother, her, because of course he was getting beat down too.
Right.
So it wasn't just her getting beat; all of them were getting beat. And maybe he felt she didn't protect him. Maybe because he was also on drugs. Drugs started to play a big part in his life, and drugs can definitely alter your thinking. And I don't think that gets an excuse to kill anybody. I'm not saying that. What I am saying though is that something was going on in his mind that I think definitely contributed from his childhood pain and then those drugs.
Yeah.
And having to be treated the way you were all the way up to you were 17, thinking drugs was the thing. Here you go. You're constantly doing it. It's definitely it's something going on up there. It's something going on.
Because he started doing drugs in high school. His
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Like he was doing well at Pomona High School, and then he just started doing drugs. Like he got immediately addicted. His mother spoke at his trial on his behalf. And she's talked about the abuse that she endured with her husband and how he would beat her, but also, like you said, beating the children. And then when she would try to defend the kids, he would turn his anger back to her. So it's kind of like, trying to protect yourself. And and unless we've been into a situation where someone is being abusive to you and your kids, we can say how we would react, but we really don't know.
Right.
And it depends on the severity of the beating, and like, are you thinking that it'll just go over and it won't last long and you'll be fine? So it could have been that he thought his mother didn't protect him.
She's used to that behavior. Right.
Clearly she's used to the behavior because the man shot her in the face and she takes him back.
Yeah. Sometimes women attract those kind of men because those are the type of men that know that they're attracted to them. And, it could be definitely that she attracted that. And I don't even know. I don't know. I just
could have been a situation where maybe was her home life. So maybe she was used to seeing the abuse. And so I think that sometimes what happens is that you're used to seeing abuse. And so in your mind, you're thinking that this is the way it's okay because this is the way, not that it's okay, but this is normal. Because this is that's happened in my house. My mom did this. So of course I'm going to do it. And sometimes that cycle where your mom doesn't tell you to get away from this. Your mom is like, well, I did it, so you can do it. I endured, so you can endure. And listen, love ain't supposed to hurt. Okay. It's not that hard. It's not hard at all. If it hurts, you probably shouldn't be there.
And we ain't talking little petty arguments y'all be having either. We talking about legit pain, not the little petty arguments.
Yes.
We're talking about somebody legit breaking your heart. It's not supposed to be that way.
Right. So if they're breaking your arms and your heart at the same time, then you need to get out.
Yeah.
Last week in the show notes, in the last show, episode 17, I did include the website and the telephone number to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I will include that again in the show notes for this week. I believe it's Domestic Violence Awareness Day or Awareness Week or something like that right now. So if you know someone who's enduring domestic violence, or if it's you who has gone through it or is currently going through it, please call the Domestic Violence Helpline, or go to their website, get some information, talk to someone. and get some help. So if even if it's something that
it's becoming too common.
yeah,
It's becoming
it's
way
becoming it's becoming
too
normal in
common.
people's minds that the abuse is okay and acceptable. And this is not just abuse towards women. We
No.
have a uptick in women, female abusers, like young women.
Yes.
Like you see all the
So
time in social media where young women are fighting their boyfriends. And listen, chickie, um
toxic.
listen,
Just toxic.
it is toxic behavior. It is dangerous behavior. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a family full of men and full of boys. And I'm not saying you can get mad at me if you want to, but I was taught if you hit him, he's gonna hit you back. You can say a man is not supposed to hit a woman. Listen, humans aren't supposed to hit humans. So don't think of that as a man and don't think of that as a woman. That is another human who has emotions and who has feelings. And if you hit them, the potential is that you are going to be hit back. Stop it. Just stop it.
And I don't care how much you think you are China from WWF. At the end of the day, he is the stronger vessel. I don't care how fat you are, how skinny he is. He is the stronger vessel. And a person will only allow so much from anybody.
Body,
You send there, punch him in his head, he is going to react. I don't
yes.
care how strong he is, he will react.
And
That's what's
if
happening.
if it's on the other side and he is punching you, look, pick up a hot pan. Uh, Listen, I'm gonna tell y'all this. Now, I don't condone violence, but it's necessary sometimes. I'm gonna give y'all a little tip. Uh,
Not sometimes.
Listen, now this is true life though. Listen, if you are in a toxic relationship, and I'm not telling you to do this, I'm just saying it can be done. Uh, in a toxic relationship, and somebody for whatever reason you don't leave and he don't leave and he come to your house. Listen, what you want to do is you want to get a skillet and you want to put some oil in this skillet. You hear what I'm saying? And before he come over, you put it on the stove and you put it on low so it don't overheat and smoke up. You just want to keep it on real low.
Mm-hmm.
And if the situation gets a little volatile, you make your way towards that kitchen, okay? So you already in the kitchen. You already have some weapons, but what he don't know is you got some hot grease on for that ass. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you that it's possible that this could work. Okay, this could work. That's all I'm saying. This could
They gonna be trying to rub that grease out, all that skin gonna come off.
Girl, you gonna be pink. You gonna look like this right here. Hold on. You gonna look like this posted. Just pink. Just pink. So I'm not condoning violence. I'm just saying that this is something that I've heard that people have done, okay, to protect themselves. But you always want to protect yourself. But in any case, you don't want to get to a point where that's necessary. You want to try to get away from the person, the situation. Yeah. So again, domestic violence hotline, national domestic violence hotline, that will be in the notes for the show. So apparently we are not in any way exempt as Black people from crimes against us and from those that commit those crimes, especially serial killers. Now, again, that we always talk about this, how it's a misconception that there are no Black serial killers. There's no Black female serial killers, that we don't commit, that, there's no mass rapists. They're there, but we just don't talk about them.
No,
there are crimes that happen in our communities that we don't talk about, because we want to keep everything private, and we're already living in a deficit as far as society goes, so we don't want to further that, so we keep those things. So we have the guy at the end of the block that you tell your kids don't go down there because that he is a molester or he's a killer or whatever, but we just avoid the situation and we avoid the house. But when it comes to people, when you find people like Ivan Hill and Lonnie David Franklin and Chester Turner, and who else I have on here? Timothy Spencer, Henry Louis Wallace. These people are real life serial killers with multiple people under their belts.
Really?
And we're just now talking about them, which is very interesting. Now, you might see some of them on national shows, but you really don't talk about them. And I don't think a lot of Black people want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about things that happen in our community. Like,
we don't want to tie our race and culture to those type of things. We just don't want that tied to us. We want that to be staying on the other side.
right.
And, very hush. Everything got to be private. Don't tell nobody. You keep that to yourself. Like you were mentioning, how when we were growing up, the dude down the street, don't go over his house.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody ever dreamed. You just have to stay a secret.
Right. And as kids, you'll hear a rumor about someone or, but you really don't know what they did. You'll just hear the rumor, just don't go down there. You don't know what they did. But they're right there in our neighborhoods. And I was thinking about what makes a serial killer. Like, what is a serial killer? Mm-hmm. Prior to the 1970s, that wasn't even a term. That wasn't even a thing, serial killer. Right. What's that show on Netflix where they talk about the first FBI profilers? Oh my God. I forget the name of the show, but the first subject that they had on there, it's a really good show too, was Edmund Kemper. And Edmund Kemper was the guy, he was 13 and he killed his grandparents. And then they let him out of prison. No, they let him out of a mental hospital, and then he started killing. He was called the co-ed. Was he called the co-ed killer? Anyway, he started killing girls and women in Northern California, and then he killed his mom. And he was a really tall guy. He was almost 7 feet tall.
I think he's the co-ed.
Yeah, really super smart, like genius level smart. And
they were
profiling. When they were profiling him, and then they started looking at other people who had committed similar crimes, they started coining serial killer, which means that you have killed more than 3 people at different intervals of time. So if you're a mass murderer, if you like the Carr brothers, I would consider them mass murderers because they basically killed 5 people at one time.
They did at one time.
Jim Jones is a mass murderer. Mm-hmm. Even Charles Manson would be a mass murderer because, even though it was multiple people, it was only 2 occasions. But, of course, Ted Bundy, serial killer, because there's a very similar method. And then there's periods of time that go by between each victim. Just think about that. How many people do you know, if you know anybody who's killed someone, would be considered a serial killer? Especially if they're a gang member.
Yeah.
Especially if they're a gang member. I wonder how our perception of people would change if we thought about it, especially in ethnic communities, if we thought about it that way. You have your cousin, uncle, whatever that has, that might be a gang member. And this goes all gangs, not just, neighborhood gangs. We're talking about any gang, even in the mafia. If you think about Albert Anastasia and Joey Gallo and those guys, they're serial killers. Their motivation is money, but they're still killing people at different intervals, and they killed multiple people. But how would our perception change of the people that we know or the people that we admire in the media if we thought of them as serial killers, not just a gang member who happened to kill, shoot down 5 people?
Right.
If we thought of them as serial killers, if we thought of them in the same way that we think of the Ted Bundys and the Ivan Hills and the Grim Sleeper and Samuel Little, and that's somebody else that we need to get into, because that dude right there is a whole mess. But if we think of them in those terms, instead of just thinking of them as gang members who happen to have killed somebody, if we think of them as actual serial killers, even the way we look at them, in family situations will change, because not all gang members go to prison. Not all of them get convicted.
Nope.
So, and not all gang members are killers or have killed anybody. But just think of those that have, and the ones that that have. If we thought of them as serial killers, would we have the same perception? Would we be having the same conversations? Would we be as comfortable thinking of this person sitting across from you at the barbecue as a serial killer the same way that we would think about Jeffrey Dahmer sitting across from us at a barbecue? Or, or Ted Bundy or somebody like that sitting across from us at a barbecue. So I think we just have to change our perception of people that we know that have committed certain crimes, and then think about someone famous or infamous who has committed the same crime and put them together.
Put them together. Mm-hmm.
And then we won't be so comfortable with hiding or not talking about certain things like that in our communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
I think, and like
good idea to do. Because we do not. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Changes my perspective. I really like that, because we don't look at gangsters. We don't look at them like that. We don't look at them like the OGs. We don't. It's actually a privilege. It's considered an honor that you've actually been able to do as much as you've done over the course of time, which is why you become the OG, because you've already killed so many people and you've already done so many bad things that now we have to honor you for the things that you've done.
In the name of your neighborhood or your gang, your clique, whatever that is. But I just think that if we looked at people that we know in the same categories as the people that we don't know but have done the same things, then our perception of them would change. Our conversations about them would change. Our level of comfort in their behavior would change. Because we accept it, because that's just what that is. But if we changed the way we see people, not judging them. I mean, we all judge people. That's just human nature. But just looking at them different, just looking at their actions and their previous actions in that manner. You know what I mean? Because you can have a very decent conversation with anybody, and they could be the best person on the planet. I've known some people like that. People who are just wonderful to me, but they might be a heroin addict or whatever, but to me, I don't see them as that, because I know them differently. Even though I know that they might have a problem, I don't see them as an addict. I see that this is my friend or whatever. But if I saw them as an addict and as my, then I would it's kind of like, would I treat you differently? I don't know. But I definitely, my conversation with you would be different. I would be more uncomfortable with what you're doing, because I see it in the same way as I see someone that I saw on the news or on National Geographic or something, in one of their documentaries. So it's I don't know. We just, we just kind of gloss over things in our communities, especially when it comes to serious crime, because we don't want to perpetuate the perception that we're bad people when we're just humans who just happen to be dark. That's it. And the bad people are the bad people. I don't give a damn what color they are. Bad people are bad people, and that's that's it. So something to think about for the next week. We'll see what we can come up for next week. So again, on this show, on Black Coffee and Crime, we have moved the show to Tuesday. So every Tuesday on our YouTube channel, Black Coffee and Crime, you will find new episodes. You can find information about our show on Instagram and on Facebook at Black Coffee and Crime. You can email us at info@Black Coffee and Crime if you have any ideas, comments or anything. Or of course, you can always comment in any of the video sections, comment sections, and we'll get back to you on that. Any last words for the people before we give benediction?
Yes, follow and subscribe.
Yeah. Like, follow, subscribe.
And just tell everybody to subscribe. We really have a good time here.
Yeah.
Like or subscribe.
And we talk about what we want to talk about. So, of course, our goal is to talk about crime and current events, but we also talk about other stuff because that's our show and that's we can do what we want to. It is what it is. So we will see you all next week. We do thank you for joining us here on this Tuesday for yet another show. But as always, be safe, be blessed, and enjoy that second cup. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Good night.